holiday, and welcome to a new section I'm going to call Ginger Cakes! Today I'll be making a devil's food recipe that I have altered to be perfect for 7,000 feet plus high altitude. I converted it from a sea level recipe, and I will be showing you how to do that today. Now, before we start anything, I'd like to mention that this is a recipe that uses weight instead of volume measurements. So we use grams and ounces instead of cups. What I have here is my handy dandy digital scale. This is your best friend. Much more accurate measurements with that. Starting off, you want to preheat your oven to 375. The original recipe called for 350, but at high altitude, especially at 7,000 feet, you're going to want to up your temperature degrees to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. So 350, now 375. The first thing I'm going to do is weigh out my flour, and I will put all of the measurements in the description. Flour is going to be 285 grams. I'm going to be using, this is a really good chocolate. I'm going to be using half of this, and then I'm going to do half of this stuff. It's 90 grams total of the cocoa powder, so I'm going to do 45 of each. This is a really nice cocoa, very dark, and it's going to give the cake, I would highly suggest buying this stuff. It's going to give the cake a really dark color and a really just delicious flavor. Now with leavening, I was told that if you're at 7,000 feet or above, you're going to reduce each teaspoon by 1/4 of a teaspoon. So I'll just tell you what I did for this, which is for the baking soda, you're going to add 1 1/8 teaspoon. And the baking powder is the same thing. So for this recipe, it's 3/8 teaspoon, so just do 3 of these. Salt should be the same. For this recipe, it is 3/4 of a teaspoon. This recipe tells you to sift the dry ingredients together 3 times, so I'll do that now. There you have it. Do not skip this step because all your ingredients need to be combined into one. You don't want anything to get on to not mix correctly. So there you have it. The person I'm making this cake for is dairy free, so I will be using Earth Balance in the original flavor. And into your mixing bowl, you're gonna want to do, this needs to be at room temperature. Going to do 210 grams. To that, you're going to add 450 grams of sugar. I'm using an all-natural sugar. And at high altitude, for 7,000 feet, it says for every cup of sugar, you take away 3 to 4 tablespoons of that sugar. So I only had about 2 cups, so I'm going to be taking away 4 tablespoons. Add your paddle attachment and start mixing this up. You need to mix the butter and the sugar, cream it together really well. your butter and sugar are still creaming, this is the perfect time to prepare your pan. I'm going to be using an 8-inch, 3-inch deep pan, and I'm taking an 8-inch circle and just tracing onto parchment paper. Then I'm going to cut this out. Now what you're going to want to do is take some kind of spray, or you can use butter or other non-dairy if you're using that for a friend, which is what I am doing, but I have this coconut oil spray here. Also, if you have nut-free friends, do not use this, just use a regular butter spray. Just add a good amount of flour. Make sure you tap out the excess, and then take your circle around, making sure that where you drew with pencil is on the bottom, just so nobody has any pencil in their cake. And there's that. While your butter and sugar are creaming together, you can crack open 5 farm fresh, well, I'm using farm fresh eggs, but any organic, the best eggs you can get. For this recipe, you're going to need 4 whole eggs and the yolk of another egg. Ooh-wee, look at that. We'll just count that as 1. And then when you separate these eggs, make sure to do it in a separate bowl, so because we need to save the whites for another occasion. So just separate it like this. Do not get any of the yolk into the whites, because we need them to be, we're going to use them to whip them up to make our buttercream. So there you go. This is what your butter and sugar mixture should look like. And now it is ready to add the flour. So for this recipe, we add everything all at once. It's kind of a one pot mixture. I'm not a food scientist, so I don't know why this is a good recipe. All I know is that it tastes good and it comes out really soft and delicious and really chocolatey. So just turn that back on. Turn it on slow because you don't want powder everywhere. So once it gets to about there, you're going to want to add your eggs. Kind of just a little bit slowly. And then scrape down the bowl. So the next step is to add buttermilk, but because I'm doing a dairy-free recipe, I'm going to be using almond breeze, unsweetened vanilla. To that, I'm adding 1/4 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar to get it a little bit acidic. The rule for high altitude baking is for each cup of liquid, add 3 to 4 tablespoons of liquid. So there's about a cup of liquid of the fake buttermilk. So I added 2 more tablespoons, coming to total of 212 grams. So that's what I'm just going to go by. So you add this. And start it on low because it's going to be sloshy. And then you're going to want to take this up to medium for 30 seconds. Next, you're going to add the exact same amount of coffee, so 212 grams of coffee. It's cold, brewed coffee, brewed in a regular coffee machine, and sat in the fridge overnight. And then you're going to add about a teaspoonish amount, teaspoon, tablespoon, whatever you like, of vanilla extract. And go ahead, it's slow until it gets incorporated. And you're going to go on high for 30 seconds. And it is about ready to be poured into your pan. I like to go a little over halfway because I don't want it to rise too much and spill outside of the pan. So actually, that's almost about all the mix. So let's pop this into the oven, 375, for around 45 to 50 minutes, depending, until a wooden skewer comes out clean. Alright, put it on a center rack. Alright, let's take this baby out. Doesn't that look good? Shush! Alright, we're gonna let this rest for 5 minutes and then I will take it out of its little container. Right. So you're gonna want to cut around the edges with this and then take one of these cutting board and just flippity flip. Take that off, and voila! Join me next time when I cut it up and frost it and cover it in fondant. Thanks for joining me!